So in today's video, I'm going to cover how to create a brand for your dropshipping store. Now, I'm not just talking about pretty colors, logos, beautiful website. That is very surface level of what a brand actually is. A while back, there was a brand that was dropshipping. Well, they might have not been dropshipping, but they were extremely direct response. Their websites looked really almost scammy, and everyone was like, this can never be a brand. Because they didn't have a pretty website and they didn't do all of the really kind of Gen Z design stuff. Fast forward, and this is now a multi-$100 million brand that is talked about by Joe Rogan and some of the major health people, because the product was so good, because what the brand strategy was so good. And this is Athletic Greens. Now, every kind of dropshipping business has the potential to be a brand in itself. Dropshipping is a delivery mechanism. It's not a death sentence for brands, because I've even bought from Apple. I bought some headphones recently and they dropshipped it from China. The reason why that dropshipping products sometimes don't become a brand is 1, because the product sucks. 2, they don't stand for anything. And 3, the service is terrible. And we're going to try to mitigate all 3 of those things. But the thing that I wanted to talk about in today's video, it was, what does the actual brand stand for? How are we going to differentiate ourselves from the competitors to stand out in our consumers' minds whenever they need a solution to the product the brand stands for? And this is what a brand really is. Like, there's some really good quotes here. Like, a brand is the set of expectations, memories, stories, and relationships that taken together account for a consumer's decision to choose one product versus the other. So we've got a bunch of competitors for the hoodie that sell a similar product. Granted, less quality because they have to drop ship it and it's too heavy to do that. When a consumer sees the hoodie versus the competitor that has no brand, the hoodie and everything that we do is to create moments of comfort and joy for the consumer. So when then they see all of our supporting assets and everything that we do prior to the purchase, and then they're comparing to buy the competitor versus ours, even if ours is slightly more expensive, they're going to purchase ours because they know that they're going to get a moment of comfort through the product. And that's what a brand is. So there are so many different ways to push your brand. And it doesn't matter what type of product that has. There's probably like 5 very valid ways to brand that product in a different way that probably your competitor hasn't stand for. And it's similar to how I keep talking about positioning. Like, you've got to kind of consider that. Now, a lot of kind of people that are familiar with dropshipping will be like, oh, I'm going to skip this video. I don't need this video. Let me tell you why branding is important, like from a performance point of view. The first thing a brand is going to do is going to get you cheaper acquisition. And I can hear a lot of people that are very experienced saying like, no, branding is going to be limiting. I want to be able to make any ad that converts. It's not true. Like, you look at all of the people drop shipping a teeth whitening product at the moment and look at their CPA, their cost of acquisition, versus someone like HighSmile that has a brand. I can guarantee you HighSmile is better. They're spending way more. They're going to do $1 billion of revenue, hopefully. They're crushing it. So that's what a brand can do. The second thing a brand can do is it gives you a lot of direction in what secondary products you should be launching under the brand. Because if you're selling, alpaca socks, and if we're going to push the alpaca socks in the branding direction of hiking, it's not going to make any sense if we brought out some like running shoes or something like that. Whereas if we pushed it down the branding route of looking after the feet or something like that, like chiropractic, scientific, foot health, then suddenly a shoe does make sense. And this is, the brand needs to be kind of defined so that you can do that, because what we're doing with that secondary product is we're leveraging the emotional connection that we've already created with the first consumer, with their first purchase, with the first product, and then leveraging that for the second one. So the final reason is word of mouth referral. And a lot of people ask me, why Audio was so successful. And part of the reason was because the brand was creating so much joy in people that they were telling their friends about it. So I could acquire one customer and they would tell maybe 0.2, 0.3 extra customers. I don't have the actual facts, but that's what I think was happening. And I think that that's a really good reason. So if you're a drop shipper that just doesn't ever want to understand about brand, you're going to be limited. As I grow older and wanting to hit new heights, I realized that kind of brand is the only thing. Brand is the only true moat in e-commerce. Systems, processes, patents, trademarks, all of this kind of stuff, they are just kind of finite. And Warren Buffett is one of the best people about that talks about this, and he will only invest in something that has a really, really strong brand and a really strong leader. So if it's good enough for Warren, it's good enough for me. I remember chatting to Simon Beard, who's created an incredible brand. He's one of my friends, Culture Kings. He exited for 600 million. He said, a brand is earned in drips and lost in buckets. And I think that really reinforces the requirement to have consistency amongst the brand. So how do we get consistency? Well, first we need to define it. And this is what I'm going to teach you today. I'm going to give you a free template. Join the Discord or head to millionaires.com to check out this template and download it. And yeah, we can kind of go through all of these things. Now, this is the template. It might be on a different format. It's on Figma right now. I don't know how easy that is for everybody to use, but this is my creative director at Udi created this for us. She's incredible and knows her stuff. So what we want to create here is a branding deck. Now, this branding deck will help us define everything. But if you ever hired an email agency, or if you ever needed to build a website or something like that, and you hired someone to do it, you would send them this branding deck because it really defines a lot of the things that you stand for. You can even show it to potential employees, all of that kind of stuff. So it's a really, really important resource to have. So we're just going to add our brand name here. So next we've got this brand overview, which I'm actually going to do last. I'm going to leave that one here. And I'm going to go across this brand strategy because I think this is a great place to start. So we're going to fill in the answer to these questions. Now, if you're new to branding, this is going to feel really overwhelming. If you're not a creative person, it's going to feel really overwhelming and you're just going to have no idea what to kind of write here. But that's where ChatGPT and a couple of hacks that I'm going to show you today come in real handy. So the purpose, what's the greater good behind your work? So we're selling alpaca socks at the moment for the cold, for traders, for potentially hikers. I don't know the exact positioning that's going to work the best. When we create Facebook creators and create landing pages, I do want it to be relatively versatile in these early stages within building this brand, so that I'm not limiting myself when I find the right avatar and I find the right positioning for my brand. Some people, like a little bit more experienced people or someone that's more branding orientated, will set this at the start, know exactly what the openings are in the market and smash it from a branding perspective, and will not stop until they get it right. Think of Steve Jobs. He was like, everyone was like, nobody's going to buy a $1,500 phone. Nobody's going to buy a computer like this. It looks weird. It's a closed ecosystem. This is never going to work. And it didn't for so long. It was absolutely getting hammered. And so many people were constantly saying that they needed to sacrifice a lot of their brand values. He would absolutely not do that. He was so religious and dogmatic and pushing it forward with that branding, and it obviously paid off. You are not Steve Jobs. At this stage, you want to keep your branding versatile and you want to define a few core principles and at least start this. But then when you get a winning creative that might be for mums rather than for young Gen Z, suddenly that might shift a lot of the stuff that you're doing. But we can at least start making some assumptions. So what's the greater good behind your work? So we want to create extremely comfortable and technical textiles. See how that's versatile? I can go into sportswear. I can go into more different types of socks. Very, very different. So vision, what will your brand look like in 5 to 10 years' time? A multi-category e-com store with lots of cool. Just shrink this one down. So I've got a multi-category e-com store with lots of different technical apparel endorsed by experts. Let's say you don't understand what purpose and vision actually is. So we want to come to ChatGPT, and let's say we're selling something else. Let me give you something. The sauna t-shirts that I was going to sell. Let's go, what are some branding? And we can just go purpose, brand. What are some brand examples for purpose and vision that's of major brands that could be applicable to my brand that is selling sauna shirts? Actually, let me just do our pack stocks. I don't know why I'm going back to those. So a bunch of examples are going to pop up. So we've got Patagonia. We're in the business to save our home planet. Vision, to be a responsible company that supports environmental and sustainability. And applicability, which is emphasize the eco-friendly aspect. So it's actually giving me an example that I could use. But see how easy that was to kind of get a bit of a brand value for that exact product. So it's talking about the sustainability practices of alpaca fibers. Like, that's going to be a completely different brand to what I'm talking about from a technical apparel element. But at the same time, it's still going to be really, really cool. Like, you can change all of the ads. Like, it would definitely work as well. But let me just give you another one. Ben & Jerry's purpose, to make the best possible ice cream in the nicest possible way, to create high quality products while promoting social. So this is all about product quality as well, which is a good value. One thing that you'll notice, even on this branding template, is just using existing brands is really, really helpful to actually push you forward. Now, there are some already brands on this template that can help you understand. So we've got, in here, we've got provide structure. Actually, probably just look at these colors. We've got innovation, safety, knowledge, freedom, liberation, power, mastery, intimacy, pleasure, belonging, service, control. They are just great keywords that could summarize so many brands. Like, we've got, like innocent, safety, Dove. Makes sense. Maybe you're in the beauty space and that's kind of where you want to go. Maybe you want to go power, magician in the beauty space, and that's going to be like Truly Beauty. Like, that's probably more where they line up. There obviously are like explorer, freedom. That's the typical way that someone would brand a product that I'm doing. But maybe what I'm trying to do is I'm looking at creator, innovation, and I want to be more like Apple through this textile product, because this is probably where my competitors already are. This is where my competitors are thinking, probably explorer, maybe like outlaw and liberation is where they're kind of sitting. So if you have, we can go back to our competitor sheet that we've done and we've analyzed, or we can even just look at some brands that we really, really like and try to apply their framework to ours, because chances are there's going to be a customer set that kind of appreciate it. So check out this as well. But yeah, realistically, we can kind of go through here. Rather than go through step by step, I'm going to just kind of go through the rest of the sheet and talk about it. So we've got values. What are some beliefs that you stand for, which is like innovation, high quality products, science, that kind of stuff. Audience, what's your ideal customer look like? It's just like anyone that really wants to enhance their performance. Yeah, so I'm going to keep it open to hikers and people that, may be training as well. So I'm going to keep that really open. Market, why should your audience choose you over your competitors? Because we're going to have higher quality products, but we're also going to be more committed to the actual science behind the product as well. Goals, what are your goals of your brand? So that you can probably leave that initially. I would say mine could be like to invent a new sock or something like that. Personality, if it was your brand was a person, who would it be? And again, I'd probably use ChatGPT for that. Right now, I could say Steve Jobs. Voice, if your brand was human, how would it speak to the audience? Like a scientist. Visual identity, how does your brand visually make its customers feel? Which is probably more a little bit like Apple. So when we come to Apple, now, one thing that is really, really good to do is add visual references from brands that you love. And to do that, we either use Pinterest or we use just going to the website. So you look at some of this imagery here, and we can put this imagery on the branding template itself. There should be a place for example imagery. So this is the visual mood board. So we can start chucking pictures here because we're going to have our logo, brand marks, and this is just going to be a really great place to screenshot and send to these developers that I was kind of talking about. When we come into these product pages, they're wild. They're really cool. Like this. So cool. So just screenshotting some imagery here. Close-up images. Then we can come to Pinterest, as I said. Go high-tech branding. And it'll give you some really good examples. The other one is actually Behance is really cool for this. Come into Behance. And we can go search. High-tech branding. Let's do branding deck. And you can come into some of these. Oh, that sucks. That's a website. Sort by most appreciated. And we can come into some of these. We can just see some of the branding decks. Like this is even for like logo options. Let me do technology, product, imagery. And see, Behance has some really good examples. So like even this is really cool. Cool. And you can see how the brand's starting to take shape visually. I'm a very visual person rather than, I don't really like just reading about brands. I like to see them. So let's come back to Pinterest and I'll show you a few more. So you can see here, AI monitoring. You do high tech, technology logo. See if that comes up with anything cool. Get rid of apparel. So we kind of want a mixture of like things that can go on the website, product imagery. The other thing that we want is lifestyle shots. So, because lifestyle shots are such an integral part, like if we come to the hoodie, they're such an integral part of most people's branding. So we're actually quite branded nowadays, but let me find some examples. So like these are more lifestyle shots. Let me get one that will have more lifestyle shots. That's a bit more of a lifestyle shot. There we go. So like this kind of stuff is really, really important as well. Now, I would screenshot and put this on there because it looks great, but it's not really the vibe that I'm looking for. That's more so streetwear. It's a little bit cooler. It's a little bit too lifestyle. So probably don't want to grab that. But we can find a few more lifestyle. Might be able to find some examples here. So it's a bit too vintage for me. Cool. I think that looks pretty good. Lululemon might be actually a really good comparative brand. Let's take a look at Lululemon. Lululemon's actually not too big in Australia. We're not really huge. I don't really know what the brand stands for. Looks pretty cool. Very clean. Minimalist. But yeah, realistically, let me just check. I think I'll keep walking you through certain things, just how to use the sheet so you guys can keep filling it out. Brand purpose. Brand purpose is like, why does your brand need to exist? And brand strategy is kind of like how you're going to achieve it, if that makes sense. So you can fill that one out, and there's no next explanation needed there. That's very similar to the other one. We got action verbs here, which is really kind of similar to what I was talking about before with the archetypes, like the types of brands that people can be, but also just like how you're going to do it as well. So we're going to connect with people. We're going to teach, those kind of things. And you can start grabbing some of those to good reminders. Purpose statement is kind of similar to what we had before. It can feel a bit like it's repeating itself, but they're all, a branding expert will hear me say that and they're going to absolutely slaughter me. But at the same time, I'm definitely not a branding expert. But there are going to be some small differences, and there's no harm in kind of repeating yourself. So brand vision is really cool. So you can write, now I'm going to launch an alpaca sock, 5 years. Obviously, I'm not going to launch this brand for 5 years. I've got plenty of other things to do, and I just want to teach you guys. But yeah, you could do 5 years, launch your own sneaker, work with Huberman, I don't know, work with a celebrity, and that will give you a little bit of vision. Now, brand values. So you're putting negative. I actually really like this one. So this is very similar to what we were doing before with like finding the consumer, using Reddit, how do they actually feel, those kind of things. But writing in these negative and positive experiences, like my feet were freezing on a hike, I thought I was going to get frostbite. Or positive, I didn't get any blisters when I was doing a hike. That's a really good one. And then negative feeling is a fear to get a blister. Positive might be, I was very confident before I went on to my walk. That kind of stuff. Identifying those feelings and experiences are always going to be worthwhile because you recreate them in ads and you recreate them on landing pages. We've got core values here. This is another, I definitely scroll down to this kind of before you do the sheet. Hopefully I haven't been doing it alongside with me. Apologies if you have, but there's some really good kind of keywords here as well about what the brand can be. And you can just add 3 to 5 there. Tone of voice. Tone of voice is really important. We kind of said it a little bit before, but Aloe Yoga, as I said before, is probably a bit more trendy, whereas we might want to be a little bit more professional. Actually, there's professional. Yeah, there's professional there. The competitive landscape, you can do this if you want. There's not too many competitors at this point for this, but you can chuck them in there and then put yourself in to make sure that you are really different to them from a branding perspective. And then we got target persona. We can have a play with this about what type of a customer is. I think this is all getting a little bit too granular when you're first starting now, simply because the persona really may change the customer. And then we've got audiences. I think that you can probably leave that as well. We're just going to do broad targeting. We're going to test a bunch of creatives. And then we get to this visual mood board, which I'm going to keep filling out because next up, we're going to make our logo and we're going to get started on the design element. Logos are incredibly important for successful businesses, but for startups, they're just another step that we need to do quite quickly. We shouldn't get sued doing it. And then we want to keep it versatile, similar to just names in general, because we just don't know if this is going to work. So we don't want to waste too much time doing it. But overall, just so you understand, logos are incredibly important for successful businesses because they really embody the emotion that you're trying to portray through your brand. For example, the Amazon logo, it's A to Z, and it's also got a smile underneath, which represents the fact that they stock everything from A to Z, and their main focus is to create satisfaction for their customers and make them happy. Then you've got the Adidas and Nike logos that may look different to each other, but they're both, the Adidas logo is slightly slanted. The swoosh represents movement. This is a sports brand. So you can see as these brands become bigger, they really do embody the meaning of their logo. But at the same time, the Nike logo was drawn just by a graphic designer, $10 in the early stages. So we do want to keep it quite lean and dirty at the start. But there's going to be two methods that I show you. Now, one of them is completely free, and one of them is going to cost a little bit of money. I probably prefer the one that costs just a little bit of money because it's so quick and so easy, and it probably saves me a bit of time. But if you have creative skills and understand a bit of creativity, and maybe you've done some graphic design in school or something, just use the free method. So the first method that we're going to use, so we've got our branding document here, which is actually a really good place to start with kind of how the logo should make us feel, what it should embody. Because we've already defined that with this brand, we want to do a little bit more tech orientated kind of performance apparel. So that refines it. And we've even got a couple of examples here. So I'm just going to go into this tool. So it's called Looker, and it's getting better and better with all the AI advancements. And we can just go peak textile. And we can go apparel, we'll go fitness apparel. And you can just select a couple of logos that we like. Now, it's worth going through a bit of logo theory. So we've got the logo mark here, and then we've got the type font here. So we've got two components of a logo. Now, this logo mark is sometimes way too complicated. We want to keep it minimal. We want to keep it versatile here. Otherwise, we're going to get into the logo needs to be so versatile across the header bar of the website, the emails, any other marketing that we're kind of doing on the packaging, this kind of stuff. So the less complicated it is, the better, in my opinion. And I actually don't mind when they're actually it's just kind of two fonts, especially because my brand name is actually 2 words. This could be a really good design. So if you've got 1 word, you should probably be looking at something like this and making sure that there's a type font, but a logo mark, sorry. But if you've got 2 words, this can be a really nice design. And 3 words, we probably don't want a brand name. It's too long. So we can just go into a couple of minimal things like this that we like, that just kind of catch our eye, and click next. Now, I'm going to talk about colors in a little bit for our branding, but for now we can just do grayscale. We can do maybe, you can look at the actual definitions of the colors. Cool. And we don't have a slogan here. It's probably not necessary. Cool. Select a few things here, and it's going to pump out a few logos. And just keep scrolling down until you see something that you like. And favorite them. We're really trying to look at them in 2 different components. So again, the actual icon itself and the text. If we like the text for something, we can probably just move forward with that, and we can change the icon at a later date. Cool. So I've got a couple of logos that I like. We can go to your logos and have a play around with these. See what they kind of look like. So it actually looks pretty good. We can change this symbol. Now, again, we're kind of looking for certain elements within our branding that, we talked about before, like these kind of keywords, these key action verbs could definitely kind of lean us towards a certain movement or a certain way that people feel that we can try to get within our symbol. So like if we were going to do a waterproof product, that might make sense. The fact that there's hollow fibers within the alpaca, you can kind of see that, and it's represented within the triangle. Just kind of looking for that a bit more abstract meaning, the way that the textiles actually interlink together. Now I'm relatively happy with that. Now I can click download and I can preview the brand kit as well, which is kind of similar to what we were making back here. Now in the brand kit, we can check out a couple of things that we might want to use and just see how it kind of goes across all of these mediums. So for example, whereas newsletters, we can go into this and we can see kind of how the font that they're kind of pairing is going to work on our emails, just to give us some good idea. Is this kind of what we're after? And, when we look at, I'll just screenshot this. Maybe go these two. And bring it back here. And put it here. We can kind of see that the logo itself plays quite well into this feeling. Now, all we need to do is we can actually just purchase that now. And you can download just the logo package if you don't need the brand kit. Probably I'm just going to do that because I'm going to customize all of the other stuff at a later date. So we'd probably want the multiple formats. I can go through and purchase this, but for those people that are working on a huge budget, let's go through and show you the other tool that you can kind of set up. So we can go to Canva, which is going to be your best friend going forward. So we can just sign up for a free trial to Canva. So now we're in Canva. All we need to do is create a design and go logo. One mistake that I often see people make, and it's probably the same with Looker, that you just might want to consider is if you use any of these elements, and Looker, the public information that they say is they can't give legal advice, but I assume that they are in a similar situation where to try to trademark just this diamond or this text in itself, they already own it. Someone else has created that. So it's going to be a little bit difficult to get those unique elements trademarked. Now, the combination of it all and the actual word mark might be trademarkable, but if we were to use this mountain, for example, this might, it might be a little bit difficult. Like a drop shipper might be able to use that mountain in their design. They can't say Peak Textile as well if that got trademarked, but it's not a huge amount of protection. Now, if we were to use something like shapes, for example, we can come into here. I don't know, this is going to look terrible, but like, let's say we create a unique pattern like this, for example, and we're combining certain shapes and we make it a little bit more complex with like a P and a T or something like that. Then suddenly that might become unique to you and trademarkable. And this is where using shapes versus elements can often be a much more protectable and safe way to go about things. Now, I'm not a graphic designer, so if I tried to create something like this, it's obviously terrible. So when I use Canva rather than Looker, I really rely on these designs. So we can just go write in some styles. So we can look at something like this. When I'm looking at these templates, I'm identifying how little I have to change them so that I don't break them. Because if I go into something like, let's say this, first of all, this is a much more creative, a bit more along the lines of Disney's logo. So I know that I now need to change that text. As soon as I do that, that is like the most visible part, the most encompassing part of that logo. So it's more likely I'm going to break it as a non-creative person. So you're much better looking at the length of your logo and trying to find something that kind of matches it. So we've got 2 words. We've got one short word, one a little bit longer word, and we don't have a slogan. So that's kind of the requirement that we're looking for as we look through these logos. We'll go simple. So again, this is a little bit, it's 3 words, but we can just have a play around with the font. So it's a little bit too minimal for me. Cool. These are all too simple, so we'll go to other templates. Try fitness. They're probably going to be too gym bro. Cool, let's go innovative. Cool, let's get rid of them all together and have a look through some of these. They look good. This will be a little bit interesting. So let's try Canva Pro so we can access some of these ones. Obviously, you can keep Canva free and use it without upgrading. So it is still a free method for you, but I just want to test this one because it looks a bit better. Cool. So again, I had to change way too much and kind of broke it. It's also not that aligned with our brand. I'm just going to keep going through here. See, one thing that you can do is, let's say I wanted this to be my mark, and come over back to here, and you'll see that we have the brand marks, but then we can also have the logo itself. And you can see how those two interact. Now, I think they're way too different. I think that you'd be better off doing something like this for the top mark and just closing that gap. But again, I think I'm just changing too much. We're going to find the perfect one by being patient. I might show you guys how to hire a graphic designer as well if you guys want to really excel with the branding piece and the design piece. We could try this. Doesn't actually look half bad. Cool. I think we can, I'll find one more just as an option, and then I'll show you the next steps. Let's try text logo. This is pretty minimal. Let's try something like this. So I actually don't mind this combination. It's a little bit like skater, a little bit more earthy, but I think it looks pretty cool. We'll just change the colors and see what it looks like. Look, we've kind of got 3 options there, but let me show you the next steps of what we need to do to make sure that it's conducive with the rest of the design. Now, the rest of the design, what I mean by that is like everything else you see on the website. So let's say, for example, we want to use this, this logo. We also want to understand the pairing fonts that we're going to use with it, and also the color palette. So let's go into a new page, and we can come into Canva's tool here and go into font combinations. Now we can look at this font, Archivo, just to make sure that it's kind of pairing. We're trying to find a header text and header to text, and maybe a tertiary text as well. These are all pretty crazy. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write Proxima, because we got Proxima Nova. And I'm always pretty happy with that font. It's available on Shopify. But we can just go here and do font pairings as well. The Canva ones weren't that good. And we can just go to this one. I can click through, and it's going to give us a bunch of options. Go more pairs, scroll down. So this is a decent one. We're just trying to find one that matches the brand. Like, that looks pretty good. Honestly, that looks pretty cool as well. So we can just grab these fonts. Actually, I don't like this secondary font. That's going to be where the most, it's not a head 2, sorry, it's a paragraph. So let's just change this one because we want it to be really simple to read, because this is going to be the main one across the product descriptions, all of that kind of stuff. Let's try this. Cool. So something like that looks pretty good. Worst case, we can just use both Proxima Nova because it's available on Shopify. But you can just start to define your brand a little bit more. So we've kind of got our typeface there. Now all we need to do is get our color palettes. Now there's a few ways we can do this. Again, back to good old Pinterest. So we can write in innovative color palette. We can have a look at some of these examples. They're all a little bit colorful for me. Something like that is actually pretty cool. Just put this into Canva, chuck it here just so I have reference. But when I come back to here and looking at all of these example boards, they're much more monotone. So I kind of want one that's a little bit more gray. The final free tool, sorry, I'm jumping around a bit, aren't I? But is this colors. It's pretty good. Super easy to use. And we can just generate. So all we need to do is click through space and change them. I believe there's a way that you can change one color as well and then the rest. So what I'm going to do here is change this one. Nah. Let's keep clicking through and find something. So one of the problems with sometimes with these colors is you don't have one a variation where white text will work on it. You need both. You need a color where white text will work on it and black text will work on it. So like you can see white text would work on none of these colors, which is like problematic. So we want to keep clicking through. Sweet. I'm going to go gray color palette in Pinterest. Try to find, see, I mean, this is pretty cool. Actually quite like this. So let's grab this one and pull this over and decide between the two. I'm probably going to go more so this color palette. So let's say we want to edit this and save all of these colors and get the hex code. We come into brand and we can come into here and we click edit. We click the plus to add the colors and we simply click there. Now we've got the hex code. We can save that color as well. We can save all of the colors that we like. Whoops, I already grabbed that one, didn't I? Oh, I know, they're just very similar. We probably don't even need that secondary color, to be honest. We'll probably only need these three. Cool. I think that's fine. I just don't like flush black. We always just want it to be a little bit like that. And then I can save that. Now we've kind of got our color palettes here, which are very easily editable. So I can even change this logo if I wanted to. I can change the color here to our brand colors. This is going to look bad, but I'll just show you how it looks. And we can just kind of change it like that. We can even pull this across once we've finalized it, which I'm not 100% sure which one I'll go for, but something like this, and save across the colors as well. Now, one other good habit to get into is just grabbing this code and going like this. God, anyone that's very, very good at Canva would be doing that, pulling out their hair, but I hope they're not watching this module because it's a waste of their time. But we can also go. Now, we can just apply all of these colors to it so that we know that wasn't that color, was it? It was more that one. Cool. So that one. And then this one as well. We're just grabbing the actual hex code. So if we need it at a later date, and this one as well. I'm just double clicking on that just to grab it, and we can just copy and paste these across. You get the idea. You just really want to make sure that you have the colors very easy to grab so that you can just grab that hex code in Klaviyo when we set up emails, when we get into Shopify, and you can easily paste them across. But I'm going to tinker around with this. I think that's everything that you guys need to know. I'll pick a logo and I'll see you in the next module. Thanks.